Greetings students, I am Ms. Kanika Sharma, Assistant Professor, Department of Pharmacy from Ramesh Institute of Vocational and Technical Education, Greater Noida. In the last lectures, we have talked about the hospital pharmacy and its organization, hospital and its organization, as well as we have also read the introduction and definition of adverse drug reactions. What are the various type of adverse drug reactions? We have read about it. Now, in this presentation, we will talk about ADR detection. How do we detect ADRs? What is the way of detecting ADR and what are the various roles of healthcare professional? So, in this presentation again we will be talking about pre-marketing studies, we will be talking about post-marketing surveillance, then again what are the steps that are involved in ADR monitoring, what is the role of healthcare professional, what are the high risk population that are at a higher risk of getting ADR, then what are the various causality assessment scales. First, we are starting with pre-marketing studies. So, as we know, clinical trial is a very important part in the production of drugs. For the production of new drugs, clinical trial is a very whole and comprehensive structure that is again set up because so that the adverse drug reaction, the side effects can be minimized. Now, pre-marketing studies, that means the studies which are conducted before we market the drug. The studies which are conducted before we market the drug. So, before marketing the drug, the studies are generally conducted on animal models. And in these animal models, we check for major problems. We check for carcinogenicity, whether the drug is causing cancer or not. We check for teratogenicity, that is whether the patient, if a pregnant female takes it, so whether it will cause any problem to the mother or the fetus. So, these are the major things that we check. Instance, mutagenicity. We will check these major problems in animal models. Right. Now, because of this thing, the probability of detecting ADR, that whether this drug might cause ADR, are very less. Because why? Because first of all we are checking in animals. So, in animal we cannot detect ADR, right? Animal is not a human that it will react to the medication in the same way. So, only 0.5 to 1% of ADRs are detected in pre-marketing studies. Again, if the question arises, why does that happen? So, there are two reasons. First of all, that first we are not checking the major parameters. We are checking the we are not checking the pharmacokinetics. We are checking carcinogenicity, teratogenicity and mutagenicity. Moreover, the second main important reason is that the animal models, we are doing the test in the animal models. So, this is the reason we only detect 0.5 to 1% of the total ADRs. Now, this is the place, this is the area, this is the phase where we detect maximum, maximum ADRs. Post-marketing surveillance, also called as PMS, also called as phase 4 of clinical trial, So, in this phase 4 of clinical trial, what happens? Now, during the phase 0, 1, 2, 3, the drugs are being tested on human subjects, and then in the post-marketing surveillance, that is the phase 4, the drug is marketed into the whole market, in the whole world. The drug is sent out into the whole world, and then we check. Then we sit and we check. And who does this checking? So, the pharmacovigilance people check. And how does they check and what does they check? They check the risk of ADR. Now, the drug is into the market, it is into the whole world, it is into the whole population. The genetics are varied, the genetic factors are varied. People can react to the drug differently. If an African population person is reacting to the drug differently, American will react to it differently. So, we have the opportunity to identify the maximum ADRs, and that is why pharmacovigilance is a whole new branch. It is a whole new subject where one can work in, right? So, pharmacovigilance methodologies are used for detection of risk and for the collection of risk information. Powerful and cost effective system for the identification of unknown drug related risk is spontaneous adverse drug reaction is reported, right? So, it is the responsibility of the pharmacovigilance people who are working there to report the ADR back to the ADR monitoring center. So, again if I may ask, where is the ADR monitoring center? So, ADR monitoring center is in Uppsala, Sweden, and it is called as Uppsala Monitoring Center, UMC. Right. So, this is the headquarters where the whole setup is there. Now, moving on to the what are the various steps that are involved in ADR monitoring. So, the first and primary and foremost step is to identify the ADR. So, how do we identify the ADR? So, again there is a whole process for identifying the ADR. Now, let us take an example. Now, let us take a case study. For example, a patient comes into the hospital. As we have talked in last classes, prazosin is known for causing what? Prazosin is known for causing postural hypotension. Now, this is a known adverse drug reaction. We will be taking this example. We have a male 39, let us say a male 65 years of age. A 65 years of age male we have presenting with postural hypotension and is taking prazosin. So, this is the case, right. So, if he comes into the hospital and he says ki whenever he changes the posture he is feeling dizzy. So, that simply means that he is suffering from what? Postural hypotension. So, now if a presenting physician should ask the questions. So, what will he be asking? So, are you taking any antihypertensive medication? So, he would say yes, I am taking this medication. He takes the name of prazosin. So, now we know that yes, there are chances that the postural hypotension is because of the said drug, that is prazosin. So, we will be discussing about how to identify the ADR in detail in later on slides. The next step is to assess the causality. How do we assess the causality? There are a number of causality assessment scales which help in assessing that, right. Again, we will be discussing these 2 points in detail in the later on slides. The third step is, once we have found out that yes, the patient is suffering from an ADR, yes, the patient is still suffering from the ADR, what do? We document it. We have to document. Now, as you would be knowing that whenever a patient is admitted into the hospital, he or she has this whole file, wherein from the first point when he was when he was seeing the doctor, the first prescription is kept, and along with that all of the documentation that is to know about the patient history, medication, everything is all present in that file. So, in that file we document that the patient is yes suffering from an ADR. So, that is the primary step to do. So, first you have to document the ADR, right. Then the fourth step and the last step is to report that ADR to the pharmacovigilance center or the ADR regulatory authorities, whatever are in that area. So, according to the PVPI is Pharmacovigilance Program of India. Pharmacovigilance Program of India has set up zonal centers wherein the information about the said ADR can be shared. So, information about those ADR can be shared with the zonal offices, zonal centers, and at the end there is a whole cycle that zonal centers will send it to the central whole center, and then it will eventually go on to the UMC, that is Uppsala Monitoring Center, and then they take the decision what has to be done with the drug, right. So, again the last step is reporting of the ADR to the pharmacovigilance center. Now, this is in respect to the ADR. Now, let us talk about the patient for a while. Patient doesn't care whether you are reporting the ADR or not. Patient is caring that he is suffering from postural hypotension. Whenever he is getting up, he is laying down, he is feeling dizzy. So, now being a physician, being a pharmacist in place, you have to take care of that first. You have to first take care of that. You have to first take care of the patient, right. If the patient is being taken care of, for example, prazosin causing postural hypotension, we will withdraw the drug. We have to take care, or we will give what? We will give some antagonist. The primary step is to first of all identify the ADR and assess the causality of that, what is the reason behind the ADR, and then before step 3 we have to treat the patient. We have to do what? We have to treat the patient. We have to make sure that the patient is no more suffering from ADR. Now, there is another thing, and then obviously it comes to the documentation and further reporting, then it comes on to that. Another thing that has to be mentioned, it is necessary to mention in this step, is that whenever ADR is being reported back to the pharmacovigilance center, there is a whole process of documentation. There is a whole process of documentation that has to be sent with, right. But let us say this postural hypertension, this example we are taking. So in this example, the problem is not that severe, right? But in that case, what do we do is we make up the whole documentation, then we send these whole documentation to the pharmacovigilance center. But what happens if, let us say, instead of postural hypotension, the patient died? So that is the lethal adverse drug reaction. That is the severity of the adverse drug reaction. So what happens that in that case, we do not have that much time to make up the document and send it to the pharmacovigilance center. In that case, we immediately place a call. Now in that case, because of the lethality, because it is very severe, the severity scale, it is high. So in this case, what do? We send the document, we directly place a call to the pharmacovigilance center, informing them about the severity of the adverse effect that we are seeing, and then in later on days we can send in the documentation. So it is very much necessary, if the reaction is very much severe, we have to inform immediately so that the steps can be taken, right? Now moving on to the role of healthcare professionals. So what does the role healthcare professionals play in adverse drug management and detection? A healthcare professional should be very vigilant in detecting ADRs. He should know when he is seeing a simple side effect, when he is seeing an adverse drug reaction. It is his responsibility to identify and differentiate between the two. It is his responsibility. He should know. ADRs may be detected during ward rounds with medical team. ADRs can be detected anywhere. It can be detected during ward round. It can be detected during review of the patient chart. When you are seeing the patient chart, when you are reading his file, you may encounter a ADR there. There are chances then simply doctor writes these are the symptoms that the patient is suffering from. He is facing these days. So you can identify that this symptom might be because of that drug. This symptom might be because of that drug, and this might be will be cleared later on in the next slides. So again, so where are the points when we can actually detect the ADR? So in review of patient charts, during patient counseling. So there are chances that the patient is suffering from something and he is afraid of telling in front of the doctor. So there are chances that the patient might tell that thing or tell that symptom or tell that problem to the pharmacist when he is counseling him. So again, patient counseling plays a very important role in detection of ADR. Then we have medication history review. We do a medication, we write down whatever the medication that the patient is taking, we write them down, and then we do a review, we check them, we review them, we check them, that what are the drugs that he is taking, and we can get a lot more information from medication chart reviews. Then obviously communicating with other health professionals, we get this thing. We are communicating with other person, another doctor is saying, yes, yeah, I don't know why there is another, one of my patient is also facing postural hypertension. Then you will realize that, oh my god, if he is also facing postural hypertension and my patient is also facing postural hypertension, then there might be some common link to that. So again, identification of ADR is just not only one step, it is you have to keep your mind open when you are trying to identify an ADR. Now talking about the high risk population. What are the population which are at high risk of developing an ADR? Now to understand this, one should always keep in mind that why does an ADR occur? Why does an ADR occur? ADR simply occurs because of the drug. It is occurring because of the drug. So any patient who is taking a drug is at the risk of getting an ADR. Right? Any patient who is taking a drug is at the risk of getting an ADR. Now obviously taking a drug, taking a medication in today's time has become so normal. So in a way that each and every one of us are at a risk of getting ADR. But again, we are talking about the high risk. Who are the population, who are the people who are at a higher risk of getting ADR? So first one is patients with renal or hepatic impairment. Patient who are already suffering from a number of diseases, patient who are comorbid, they are already taking a number of drugs, so they are obviously at a higher risk of getting who are at a higher risk of getting the ADR, right? Patient who are taking multiple drugs, patient are comorbid, they are hypoglycemic, they are suffering from diabetes, they are suffering from hypertension, and they are taking a number of drugs. Polypharmacy plays a major role here. Polypharmacy plays a major role. Then we have patients who have had previous allergic reaction. Now if you will remember type B reaction, Type B reaction are bizarre reactions. Now these are the reactions which are generally allergic reactions or hypersensitivity reactions. If a patient who has a history of suffering from allergic reaction, so obviously there are in fact high chances that he or she might even suffer from the allergic reaction to the drug as well. So this is very much necessary to check whether the patient had previous allergic reactions or not. Then we have patients taking drug which have potential to cause ADR. Now there are some drugs which are at the potential, which have the high potential of causing ADR. Such drug is, for example, digitoxin. So what is digitoxin? Digitoxin is a cardioprotective drug. Moreover, it is very potent. It has a very narrow therapeutic index. So when I say narrow therapeutic index, what do I mean by that? So let us just take a graph, look at a graph. So this is concentration, right? And this is time here. So when I say that narrow therapeutic index, so what I mean is that this is the therapeutic index. That means if the drug when administered from here what will happen? It will increase in dose. As the time will increase, the dose will also increase, the concentration in the blood will also increase. So what will happen, that when the drug will reach in this window, when the drug will reach in this window, only then it will show a pharmacological action. But what will happen if the drug increases? Then it is in the higher toxicity, it is in the higher concentration, then what will it show? It will show toxicity. So again, drugs like digitoxin have a narrow therapeutic index. They have a narrow therapeutic index. That means this index is very small. It is very small. This is the narrow therapeutic index. And we have to always make sure that the drug is within the therapeutic index. Otherwise, it will if it will go above the index, it will cause toxicity. If it is below the index, it will not work, right? So these are the drugs which are at the higher risk of causing ADRs. Then we have pregnant and breastfeeding women, who are again at a higher risk of getting adverse drug reactions. Now moving on to detection of ADR. How do we detect ADR? First of all, the first is patient's demographic information. Demographic information, we have to ask the patient that what is your background, at which place do you belong to. Now if we will know that in some area, that let us say in some XYZ community, there are people are suffering from communicable diseases. There is an endemic going on. So in that we know that patients are suffering from that problem, right? So for example, let us take an example here to understand that a patient is suffering from let us say headache. Let us say patient is suffering from nausea. That a patient is suffering from what? Patient is suffering from nausea. Now he is saying that yes, I belong to this area and I am suffering from nausea. Now I already know that the patient is belonging to that area. So that is a community that is susceptible to large amount of communicable diseases. So this nausea might be a reaction to that and not a reaction to the drug. So I know that the presenting information is not an ADR. So that is why I need to know the demographic information of the patient. Now moving on to the presenting complaints, obviously whatever the presenting complaint is, whatever the symptom that the patient is telling you is important in detecting the ADR. What are the past medication histories? What are the number of drugs that he has taken in the past, right? We have read about the classification of adverse drug reaction, and we can believe that patient do get adverse drug reaction which are delayed in nature, type D reactions, remember. Okay. Lab data such as hematological, liver and renal function test, we need these lab results. Why? To check whether the patient has taken the dose in a higher amount or a lower amount. So these are the data which we need to know whether the patient is actually suffering from an ADR or not, right? And then we have drug therapy details, including over the counter medication, current medication, and what are the medications that were administered when he was admitted. So again we need to have a detailed list of medication, what the patient is having right now, what the patient has had before. So this is the whole list of medication which we need to have. Now let us talk about the causality assessment scale. What is a causality assessment scale, if I may ask? Causality assessment scale is that, remember the first class, that we have a medical occurrence, and we have a drug. Do we have a relationship between these two? So to establish this relationship, we need this causality assessment scale. To establish this relationship, we need what? We need causality assessment scales. Now there are a number of scales that are available to assess the causality. So the first one is Naranjo's algorithm. This is the most commonly used scale in the clinical practice because it is easier to use. It is not that much, does not require that much questions. So it is very easier to use. So Naranjo's algorithm is very commonly used. What other algorithms do we have? We have Kash-Lozana's algorithm. We have WHO probability scale. Then we have Spanish quantitative imputation scale. We have Kramer's scale, and we have European ABO system. Now let us talk about the Naranjo's algorithm in a little bit detail by taking a case study. Now Naranjo's algorithm, as you can see, we have 10 questions here. Right? We have answers, whatever the answer is. If the answer is yes, you have a score. If the answer is no, you have a score. If the answer is that I don't know what the answer is, then you also have a score. Right? To each question you answer it, and then you do a total, whatever amount of number you are getting. Whatever number you are getting, you have to check it in this scale then. Right? So this is a little, it is not complex because it is very easier to use, that is why it is being used. Right? So now let us take a case study. The same case study, we have a 65-year-old male presenting in the clinical scenario with the problem of postural hypotension, and is also taking prazosin. So this is my case study. Okay. So now the patient is coming. Now the case study is that patient is coming in our clinic for the first time, right? And I doubt that he is suffering from a ADR. So what will I do? I will take out my Naranjo's algorithm and I will answer these questions to check whether he is actually suffering from it or not, right? So first question is, if you can read, are there any previous conclusive reports on this reaction? Are there any previous conclusive reports on this reaction? Do I know that prazosin has the habit of causing postural hypotension? So yes, that has been well established and well written that yes, prazosin does cause postural hypotension. So the answer is yes. So for yes answer, I have to put +1 here. So +1, right? Now moving on to the next question. The next question is, did the adverse event appear after the suspected drug was administered? Did the reaction appear when the drug was given? So prazosin. So I asked the patient, were you taking the drug when you faced dizziness or when you faced chakkarana? So were you eating the drug? So he says, yes, I was eating the drug. I have been eating this drug since last 3 weeks since I have been diagnosed. Let us say the patient said that, right? So patient said that he has been taking the drug since last 3 weeks and he is facing this issue. So that simply means yes, patient was taking the drug when the adverse drug reaction was observed, when the adverse event was observed. So my answer is yes. So for yes, I put a +2, right? Then did the adverse reaction improve when the drug was discontinued or a specific antagonist was administered? Now imagine the patient is coming to me for the first time. I am a physician and patient is coming to me for the first time. Did I have the time to ask him to stop the drug? I did not have the time. This is the first time he is coming to me. So I do not know whether if I ask him to stop the drug, will the reaction stop or not. I do not have the time. Nor did I ask him to do that. So right now my answer is I do not know. I don't know. So in that case, do not know, the score is 0. I put a 0 there. Did the adverse reaction reappear? Did the adverse reaction reappear when the drug was re-administered? Did I stop the drug? Did I ask, the question says that, did you stop the drug and when you restarted the drug, did the reaction, that means the postural hypotension, appeared again? So I did not have the time in the clinical setting to do that again. I did not have the time. This is the first time the patient is coming. So I do not know. So answer is again 0. So then the fifth question is, are there any alternative causes? Are there any alternative causes other than the drug that could on their own have caused the have caused the reaction. So are there any other reasons? So I asked the patient, what are the possible reasons for dizziness? Has the patient eaten enough? Were the patient spending enough time in? Were the patient spending lot more time in front of the TV? So I asked this simple questions. Are you eating enough food? So he says, yes, I'm eating enough food. I'm having regular meals. So I asked the next question. Have you been spending a lot of time in front of the computer or the TV? So he says, no, he is not spending that much time. So obviously the possible connection is that drug. There is no other possible reasons why that patient might be suffering from dizziness, right? So I even asked him that, are you taking amount of alcohols in there with your foods and things like that? So he denied to all those questions. So obviously there is no other reason left, again, just the drug. So my answer here is, are there any alternative causes? So no, there are no alternative causes. Drug is the only cause. So answer is no. For no, the score is +2. So I put +2 here. Then, did the reaction reappear when the placebo was given? So did I have the chance? He is visiting for the first time. I did not have the chance. So my answer here is, I do not know. So simply do not know, 0. Then, was the drug detected in the blood in concentrations known to be toxic? Now what I did was that as the field of medicine has developed so much, so what I asked was that I asked the patient to go and get the blood test done, right? So he goes and get the blood test done, and within an hour or two I get the patient's blood report on my WhatsApp. So I see and I look at it and I find out that yes, the prazosin is present in toxic amount in the blood. So that simply means my answer is what? Yes. Question number 7, was the drug detected in the body, in the blood in concentrations known to be toxic? So my answer is yes. So for yes, the score is what? +1. So I write +1 here. Moving on to the 8th question. Was the reaction more severe when the dose was increased or less severe when the dose was decreased? Now did I have the time to do that? The patient was presenting for the first time. No, I did not ask him to do any such kind of thing. So my answer here is no. My answer here is that I do not know. I did not ask him to do anything. So answer is do not know, again 0. Question number 9. Did the resident have a similar reaction to the same or similar drug in any previous exposure? So I asked him, were you taking any other medication? So he says that yes, he was taking another medication, let us say another antihypertensive drug in the past, but doctor changed it because he was facing the same problem. Because he was facing the same problem, that why doctor changed it. So he told me, he gave me this information. Now I asked him which medication was that. So he told me it was another antihypertensive medication. So again my answer here is yes, the resident have a similar reaction. He had a similar reaction to the same class of drug before. So I write a +1 here. Now moving on to the last question. Was the adverse event confirmed by any objective evidence? So I did not have any objective evidence, but I have this scale. So my answer is no, it was not. So my answer is 0. Now after answering all these 10 questions, what I have to do? I have to do a total of, now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now my score is 7. Now I check this score of 7 with the table. So it falls in this category, that is of 5 to 8. The chances are probable. So Naranjo's scale says that when I answered, now if you will remember that I answered this question with the very minimum knowledge, I did not administer the drug, I did not stop the drug, I did not give the placebo, I did not do anything. I just have the very basic knowledge of a patient presenting in the clinical setting. Now with that I got a score of 7, which says that yes, it is probably a ADR. Right. So with that I would like to end the presentation. In this presentation we have talked about what are the various methods of detecting an ADR. We have talked about what is the role of clinical trials and as well as healthcare professionals in detection of ADR, and then to assess the causality between the two, we have checked how Naranjo's algorithm works.